So we're moving on now to the watch and learn. And now we're going to take what we've just heard here and put it into action. So the watch and learn pitches are going to be moderated by Robert Wentz. And he is the founder of Point Squared Ventures, a company that invests in the technology, energy, and data analytics industries. Point Squared is an angel and early stage private venture fund where the approach is to form startups as well as fund them. At this point of the strategy, Robert co-founded Mountain Point, a cloud technology consulting firm based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Central App, an onshoring software development company with workers located throughout Central Appalachia. He also founded Stonewall Energy, an energy exploration and support holding company that includes American Energy Holdings and Summit Transport and Environmental. Robert previously served as the executive chairman of Allegheny Science and Technology, an engineering and technology company for supporting mission critical R&D efforts for the Department of Energy and intelligence agencies. He co-founded the company in 2009, where he operated the 6-time Inc. 500,000 fastest growing company until his exit in 2020. Prior to that, Mr. Wentz founded Information Research Corporation, a software development and engineering firm supporting the Department of Defense and NASA. Robert, thank you for being here with us today and moderating this very, very important panel, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. As we've heard this morning, delivering an effective investor pitch is critically important. Dawn just mentioned, that feedback is critical. So during this session, we've asked entrepreneurs to give us a pitch. We're looking at 5 to 7 minutes of an instructive pitch, and then we'll get feedback from a panel of funders. So our presenters include Augie Chico with Parthenon Battery Solutions, Anthony Abston with Legend Sneakers, and Anthony Garber with Easy Leash. I'll provide a proper introduction to them when we get to their segments. But first, let me introduce our feedback providers this morning, which include Mike Green and Rich Gersh and myself. So let's start with Mike Green. Mike Green is the founder and leads Mountain State Capital's Morgantown, West Virginia office and is an experienced early stage investor, successful technology executive, and community leader in the greater Appalachian region. Since 2002, Mike has focused on investing in and advising a portfolio of early stage companies, including companies that were ultimately acquired by IBM and Target. Mike's prior operational experience includes serving as the president of field operations for Mark Andreessen's Loud Cloud and a decade managing worldwide sales and marketing for Pittsburgh-based 4 Systems until its acquisition by Marconi for $4.5 billion. Mike began his career as a cryptanalyst at the NSA after earning his BS in mathematics from Boston University and a master's in numerical science from Johns Hopkins University. I think everybody probably knows Mike and his vast background. If not, please, introduce yourself to Mike and look him up. I think his bio could go much, much longer than we put out there. Also, as a feedback provider is Rich Gersh. Rich, who you saw earlier and heard from as our part was meant to be our MC earlier and has decided to dive into this panel for us. So Rich, we appreciate that, taking on this role. He's the newly appointed executive director of Tech Connect West Virginia, and we're very excited to have Rich join us there, and we look forward to the future with Tech Connect. Rich is a seasoned executive who has worked in venture capital, fundraising, and entrepreneurial assistance roles for multiple well-known firms and universities, which include WVU. He is also an entrepreneur, having co-founded Voluntary Bio, a stroke diagnostics company. So Rich and Mike, thank you for participating in this segment today. Let's go ahead and get started. Kind of housekeeping, let's kind of remember to try to keep these pitches in the 5 to 7 in the 5-minute range. Guys, I know that's tough. It's always tough, but we like to kind of keep it tight here, and then we'll do feedback. We'll try to keep it in the 5 to 7 minutes as well. So hopefully we can stay there. First up is Augie Chico. Augie Chico is the CEO and founder of Parthenon Battery Solutions. Augie is a native of Morgantown and a recent graduate of the John Chambers School of Business and Economics at WVU with a degree in finance. Augie started Parthenon as a senior year college student, and with the support of grant winnings, bootstrapped the company from concept to revenue in less than 6 months. Parthenon has since implemented a number of paid pilot installations of the renewable energy storage hardware, which utilizes post-consumer Nissan Leaf batteries, and have partnered with several solar installers within West Virginia. For his work at Parthian, Augie was recently honored in the 2021 class of Smart Business Network's Pittsburgh Smart 50 Awards, recognizing business leaders within the greater Pittsburgh area for operating innovative, impactful, and sustainable businesses. Good morning, Augie. We're turning the screen over to you, and you can begin when you're ready.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for that warm introduction. If you could just let me know if everyone can see my screen. Let's see. Can everyone see this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Augie Chico with Parthian Battery Solutions. We're bridging the gap to affordable sustainability by bringing new life to lithium-ion batteries. So, what are the problems that we address? Well, lithium-ion batteries play an essential role in our push for both a more renewable-focused utility infrastructure and the electrification of our automotive sector. Though they're necessary for an overall greener future, lithium-ion batteries are expensive and they're dirty, and they're oftentimes found in short supply relative to their demand. Now, these issues in large part can be attributed to the current practices used to retire them after their first use application. Popular methods such as metallurgic recycling are costly, they're inefficient, and they unnecessarily cut the useful life of the battery by more than half. In fact, these processes can cost automakers nearly $2,500 per battery to have scrapped, and they pay this high price simply because they have no other viable options available to them. Secondly, the high cost of lithium-ion batteries remains one of the largest hurdles in the way of renewable energy adoption. In speaking with over 30 solar installers across the country, we were able to gather that nearly every single one of their consumers wishes for the benefits of a solar plus storage installation, yet nearly 60% choose not to include a battery with their install simply because the batteries are too expensive. So, what do we do to address these issues? Parthian Battery Solutions recertifies and repurposes electric vehicle and other lithium-ion batteries into stationary energy storage systems. This ensures the most amount of value is extracted from them over their lifetime while simultaneously minimizing their overall environmental impact. Our reuse practices sit atop the battery termination hierarchy and have the ability to cut OEM's battery retirement costs by more than half. And additionally, our ability to obtain revenue when sourcing our batteries establishes us as the premier cost leader in the energy storage market. Our lower prices equate to higher consumer adoption, lower costs, and more money in the pockets of solar installers. And also, for each unit of hardware that we produce utilizing our repurposed batteries, we're preventing hundreds of pounds of toxic battery material from being prematurely disposed of, and as well as hundreds of pounds of virgin materials from being dug up from our earth. Getting into the markets, our business model is truly unique in that we have both a top and bottom-ended consumer base. As evidenced in this slide, the markets that we've positioned ourselves in are truly monumental in size and growing at a breakneck pace. On the top end, it would cost automakers nearly $2.65 billion to retire the over 2 billion pounds worth of electric vehicle batteries on US roads alone today. And that number is set to hit nearly $35 billion over the next decade. On the bottom end, our beachhead residential energy storage market in West Virginia and its surrounding states was valued at around $75 million last year. And the global stationary energy storage market is expected to hit nearly $100 billion by 2035. So why are we confident that we'll be the ones that will be able to capitalize on these markets? Well, to put it simply, we're already doing it, and we do it better than anyone else out there. Parthian Battery Solutions is among one of the first movers capitalizing on these monumental shifts taking place in industries and technology. In conjunction with West Virginia University, we're developing our proprietary electrochemical grading model for lithium-ion batteries that allows for better accuracy when grading their state of health, as well as faster turnover times to relieve bottlenecks in dealing with these batteries. We've established partnerships and maintained relationships with recyclers and legacy automakers to source our batteries, as well as solar installers to sell them. Getting into the financials, we've sold around $50,000 worth of our pilot systems to date, with an overall gross profit margin of a little under 50%. As we move forward, the chart on the left displays our projected income statements under 3 different scenarios for our first full year of operation. Scenario 1 is indicative of what can be unlocked with this seed round, coupled with our already existing partnerships. So in other words, with no further legwork to be done to market ourselves, the partnerships that we already have allows us to see demand of about $500,000 for our products. Scenario 2, like scenario 1, is indicative of sales with our existing partnerships, but adds an additional e-commerce addition, which can easily outpace our sales to traditional solar installers. And in scenario 3, we see what sales can be expected with an OEM partnership under which we're paid to source our batteries and see much higher margins on our sales. Our close-knit team is currently comprised of myself, who handles strategy and overall business development, as well as Greg Lusk, who handles our engineering and systems design. We also maintain a suite of well-rounded mentors, some of which you can see highlighted below. I want to thank everyone for putting on this opportunity for us and allowing us to pitch today, and for all the spectators that came to watch. I'll now open the kind of floor for any questions or feedback anyone might have for us.
Thank you, Augie. Mike, do you want to start off with feedback?
Sure. Thank you very much. Good pitch, Augie. Appreciate it very much. A couple of things that I would suggest to you, and of course to the others coming up after you, is at the beginning of the pitch, I think it's really important to set the stage as to who you are, why you're there, certainly when you're pitching to an investor, and what that ask is all about. I think you could do a little bit better job on that. Obviously, what you're trying to do has great impact on the environment. And that's really important, I think, to those of us who really care about the environment, but also remember at the same time you're pitching to investors, okay? So keep that in mind and make sure that you know at the end of this particular pitch that you've closed something. And we've talked about this, and I talk about this to a lot of entrepreneurs all the time. And the idea, of course, is to close. Now, many people think that means I'm going to walk away and somebody's going to write me a check, but it's not always that. You always want to be able to walk away with something positive. And you've heard me say this a number of times. You don't necessarily have to close, but to use a football analogy, maybe it's just to make a first down. But the first part of that is, of course, is to make sure that you maintain interest with that particular investor so that there's a reason for you to continue to communicate with them. Now, you were fortunate to hear all the wonderful things that Don and Mara and Scott talked about in making the pitch. And it's important to make sure that you keep the pitch on the level of the investor. And I will tell you, as an investor, we are not the smartest people in the world. We don't know your business. So it's important for you to educate us a little bit, but don't overwhelm us with too much technology and too much information. And those of you who've heard me talk about this subject many times, you'll also hear me say, the fact that, we're not that smart. But we don't want to really think. We want to act. We want to react. And we are going to react always to the person who's making that particular pitch. Do we believe Augie? Does Augie know what he's talking about? Does he have the background and can he execute? So my overall comment to you would be focus on who you are and how you're going to make sure that that investor gets his money back. Because we as investors care about only one thing. We give you a little bit of money and you give us a lot of money back. That's what we primarily care about. But understand that, and a little bit my tongue in cheek here, is to make sure that we understand what the value proposition is, that we can trust you, and that you're going to take our money and use it to the best of your ability to make sure that there is a return on investment. So that's my overall comments, and I'll let Rich comment as well. Rich?
Thank you for that.
Rich?
Yeah, thanks. So I certainly like the concept. The presentation was put together nicely. There's a couple of things that questions that I have when I listen to presentations that that weren't really addressed, or they weren't addressed enough to where I could gather information, and that really is a little more detail on what exactly do you need to do next. I mean, what and how much is that going to cost, and is that what the investment potentially is being asked for? And are you asking for an investment? I guess that was sort of the big thing. The typically what I'm looking for at the end of a presentation is, what is the ask? I need $1 million to do X, and it's going to take me this long to do, and that would be very useful as a just a sort of a point in time. And like Mike said, who's seen many presentations, and I have too. You want to close the thing out with, here's you've told the big story. You've told what is the opportunity. It's clear that there's a huge opportunity. We have a lot of cars cycling out. We have a big need on the renewables market. Is there, is it home use? And I guess that might be the other piece there. On the opportunity. There's lots of different storage solutions and segments in this market, and there's home storage, there's residential, sort of regional, there's grid scale, and lithium ion typically falls in the residential, but is there an opportunity for is sort of the neighborhood approach, and as we're looking at potential for distributed generation and those kinds of questions as well. So sort of segmenting that market more and honing in a little bit more specifically on, this is the segment that we've chosen, and this is why we're going after it, and this is why this is the true opportunity. Then the how large is that opportunity? So you've taken the world of opportunities and you've narrowed it down to this segment. What is this segment opportunity? And then I think a little bit more on the business model end of it. So certainly understand there's 3 different scenarios that you laid out. From a high level, what are sort of these input costs? Are the recyclers providing you free packs? Is that something that will extend in perpetuity, or is that something that's special to the startup space? And are you going to be able to get 10,000 packs for free? Is there what does that actually look like as you're thinking about scale?
The other specific 2 things that I took away, Augie, that I think you need to add, and most people, when we're looking at these pitches, we're looking for these 2 things. One's differentiation, okay, and I don't think you addressed that as well as you probably could. Why are we different from anybody else who's going to try to solve the solution? The other part gets a little more complicated, and it has to do with protection, intellectual property, IP, patents, and so on. Because we always think that we're the first person to ever come up with this idea, when we clearly know that there's probably a whole bunch of people in Silicon Valley, Boston, New York, Washington, Austin, and elsewhere that are maybe equally as smart as we are, who are addressing this problem. So I think it's really important as you give your pitch to say, no, we are the team that's going to be able to do this, and specifically why. So I think a little more focus on that would really help.
Yeah, it's very much the competitor matrix. Now I'll be quiet.
I think that's a good place to probably wrap up, Augie. From my end on an open-ended, I probably would have taken one of your comments and said we were the first to get in the lane and we're the best. And I think the next part of the conversation, to Mike's point and Rich's, was we'd probably dive into that. Show me, prove to me, back that up, because I think my investment would be based on knowing that that's a true statement and you have some IP protection, and where does that whole discussion go, which you obviously can't have in 5 to 7 minutes. So we appreciate it, Augie. Thank you. Thank you, Mike and Rich.
Thank you, guys.
Let's move on now to our next segment. Anthony Abston. Anthony is the founder and owner of Legend Sneakers. Mr. Abston has been in the sneaker industry for more than 8+ years, holding positions from footwear buyer with Shoe Palace to store manager trainer at the Finish Line. Mr. Abston founded Legend Sneakers to ease the mind of consumers by providing a convenient location that understands the trends and seasonality of the day-to-day consumer, while ultimately providing his target market with an outlet that would contribute to the economic recovery through its second largest industry sector. Mr. Apton's goal is to expand to 3 locations across the North Central Tri-State, helping the community reach their potential and creating business opportunities that set Legend Sneakers apart from the competition while providing value to stakeholders. Welcome, Anthony. Thanks for being with us today. You should have control now and start when you're ready.
All right, guys, let's get going into it. So again, when we talk about Legend Sneakers and who we are a city special boutique. Again, we're located here in this North Central Tri-State area of West Virginia, PA, and Ohio. We ultimately operate in the shoe industry. We specialize in athletic footwear and streetwear apparel. We offer a very distinctive assortment from the top athletic and lifestyle brands, such as, of course, the Nikes, the Adidas, the New Balance, Chinatown Markets, and the BBCs and Kappas. Our ultimate goal is to target small to mid-sized tri-college metro areas, and we look to position ourselves at the heart of the sport and sneaker community within those areas. When we talk about when and where we're going to go, again, our goal is to expand to 3 locations across this North Central Tri-State market. We envision a 5-year plan to become the leading small business athletic shoe store across our target market. With a home base here in Morgantown, West Virginia in the fall of next year, 2022, and then expanding into Dayton, Ohio in 2024, and then moving out into Akron, Ohio, or back up into Pittsburgh in 2027. When we talk about our problem solving, pre-COVID and post-COVID, we all know our current market is saturated with bottom tier product, and it historically fails to adjust or anticipate market trends, leaving our consumer with a very meager assortment offering from the top key industry players. And our target market does not have any other notable sneaker or apparel retailer, thus ultimately driving our freely disposable income outside of our target market, forcing our consumers elsewhere. We ultimately look to fill this void with a modernized retailer that consistently meets our consumer needs with product and an unmatched level of customer service, resulting in our every customer, every time experience. Again, we founded Legend Sneakers to provide the target market with an outlet that would contribute to its economic recovery, again, through its second largest industry sector, and ultimately to ease the mind of consumers by providing a convenient retailer that consistently meets the trends and seasonality of the day-to-day consumer. Our goal is not to reinvent the wheel, but to simply provide the consumer with a valuable option and an unmatched level of customer experience that ultimately the consumer can trust. When we talk about our costs and asks, we have 2 different asks at the current moment. One is our startup inventory of $245.5 and our year 1 operating capital of $149.9 or $150, giving a total startup amount of $395.4. ROIs are to be determined at a later date and a different table. But ultimately, our number 1 ask is currently our $245.5 for our startup inventory going across 8 brands. So with all that being said, that's kind of all I have for you guys today. Just a quick, brief rundown of who we are and what we stand for as a pre-revenue company.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. Rich, we want to start with you.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that that presentation and clear enthusiasm around getting going on this business. Some of the things that sort of immediately pop to mind when I'm thinking about starting and expanding. The timeline that you laid out may not be sort of aggressive enough for a lot of investors that might be thinking about that. If you're looking at a launch of 2022 with your the 3rd store starting in 2027, so that's a pretty extended timeline. So sort of thinking about that, and it may be completely justified, but some explanation around why you think that's the way to grow and expand the business would be useful. And I guess one other thing that sort of popped up is it took me probably a couple of minutes into the presentation to wrap my head around that it was sort of the retail concept store that you were outlining as opposed to a manufacturer of a new shoe line, right?
Correct.
And so maybe right from the beginning, this is retail concept and sort of nesting it in the sort of pantheon of where retail is. And I'm not a retail guy, but help me understand how a brick and mortar makes sense with a lot of things that are online.
Correct.
And so that would be useful to me as well in a presentation.
Okay.
Well, Anthony, clearly your enthusiasm came through there very, very clearly, and it's much appreciated. You could have slowed down a little bit. You know, I'm an old man. I want to be able to make sure I understand what you're doing. So maybe you could have taken a little more time, set it up a little bit more slowly and more carefully, and been very explicit at the outset as to why you're here in pitching to us. If the issue is you are here talking to an investor, you have one goal, like I said earlier, to close something. And if that ultimately is to get us to write a check, you need to be very clear about what that's all about. On the presentation stuff, I think very clearly it's that you should be focusing on what you really mean by creating a new, I think you use the word modern store or modern retail. And what that, back to that question or comment I made earlier about differentiation. What is going to be different if I go to Legend Sneakers than I do if I go to one of these other retail stores, or if I buy my sneakers online? Okay, what is that differentiation really going to be? Because your ultimate goal is you want to party with Anthony. You want to work with me. You want to come to us. Okay. On the fundraising side, the amount of money you're looking for is certainly not something that a traditional venture capitalist would want to invest at this time. It's way, way too early. So on the continuum of wanting to raise money, the first advice I always give to entrepreneurs is go to your own bank, your own pocketbook, and your own bank account and try and find it there. Bust open your own piggy bank, if you will. If not, then perhaps there's friends and family. You've heard that term before. Go to them, see if they'll bankroll you, because their terms to get money back are less draconian than any venture capitalist and even a bank. A bank, of course, is going to ask you for collateral. So if you're looking for the kind of money you're looking for, I would suggest that. In terms of the overall pitch, you heard the previous session here about how to make the pitch. I think, yes, slow it down, be very clear what your value proposition is, what you're looking for, and try to get some enthusiasm out of your investor that says, yes, Anthony is somebody I want to do business with, and this is why. And then perhaps you'll have a better opportunity to get somebody to work with you to help you build your particular brand and meet your particular mission.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Mike. So Anthony, the background, is that literally your store?
That's what I envisioned. Correct. Yes.
Okay, so you have a location in Morgantown now?
No location. No. This
Okay.
is just a mock-up.
Well, I was trying to do, marketing direct to you right now. So for this crowd, so, failure on my part. So to their point, more vision from my part, I'm pretty dumb as well. Vision is what's different or how, why I'm coming to you in the future or how I get into that look and feel would be helpful. So I appreciate it, Anthony. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you.
we may have more feedback at the end. Let's move on now. I've got, I had a moment there where I got worried, I confused my Anthony's. We have multiple Anthony's, so I'm lucky there. So now we have Anthony Garber. Pennsylvania native Anthony Garber is a senior at WVU, pursuing a degree in industrial engineering and a minor in economics. He is the creator of Easy Leash, a patent pending retractable dog leash that features a friction braking mechanism, which allows the user to gradually slow down the dog. Anthony, you haven't met my dog. Anthony began working on his concept roughly 2 years ago and has been competing in multiple competitions to help fund the development and industrial design of his product. Anthony, we're glad to have you with us today. We'll give you control, and I'm sure you're going to tell me why you have met my dog, right? So go right ahead.
All right, let's see if I can share my screen here. Okay, can you guys see that correctly? Okay, so yes, my name is Anthony Garber and I am the creator of Easy Leash. And so today I want to preface with a little bit of a story. It was roughly 2 years ago that my girlfriend and I had decided to get a dog. We started and we got it was a 6-month-old puppy, golden retriever named Milo. And one day she was walking him out on the leash and he took off running after a squirrel. And she had him on a retractable dog leash. When she pushed the button to lock it up to slow him down, he was at a weird angle and it actually tweaked her back a little bit. She had pre-existing back injury from a car accident. So she ended up having to go back to the chiropractor and everything, and it's a big issue there. So I saw that and I decided to look for a solution to see if I could help her out. So this problem that I'm describing is something that anyone who has walked their dog on a retractable leash or even a regular standard lanyard leash knows. Dogs can build up a lot of momentum, especially when you have a dog that is roughly 100 pounds. These dogs can pull up to 3 times their body weight, and relatively easy. That starting force is always more significant as well. And the problem is that the lanyard leashes and the currently available retractable leashes all allow the dogs to take off and gain this momentum. The retractable leashes all focus on a locking mechanism, which when actuated creates this dangerous transfer of momentum. And so the force that you're feeling on your arm, the dog is also feeling in the opposite direction on their neck. So yes, harnesses kind of mitigate this problem for the dog, but it doesn't necessarily take away the problem for the user. So what I have developed is the Easy Leash concept. It's, like I said, a friction actuated braking mechanism that will actually slow down the dog rather than just simply locking up. As you can see here, I have an animation up to the right to show how the brake caliper and the trigger will actually work. As the dog takes off, you can pull the trigger and it is a gradual deceleration rather than just an instant transfer of the momentum. So this greatly reduces the peak force that's felt by both the user and the dog, and it allows the user to maintain control of themselves as well as their pet. As far as the market potential, the pet industry is roughly a $21 billion industry, and 36% of this is made up just by pet supplies. And given the target market that I'm trying to go after, which is roughly 44 to 65-year-old pet owners of large breed dogs, the industry is roughly, or the potential is roughly 250 million. And I also believe that this is coming in a wake of a consumer shift. Everybody wants the best product for their dogs. As we've been moving and progressing, everyone wants the premium products to improve the overall life of their dogs. As I have here, the I Heart My Dog stickers, those are all too common. Everyone has one on their car. So I believe that I'm entering this market in a good time because it's going to overall improve the life of the dog. So as mentioned in the bio, it is a patent pending design. I'm planning on filing a non-provisional patent once I complete the MVP. And with my background in industrial engineering, I'm designing for manufacturability in the early stages. So the competition that most people are familiar with is the Flexi dog leash. Flexi is the brand that is sold in Petco, PetSmart, and both of these stores actually hold roughly 40% of the market share in the pet industry. So these leashes are the kind that everybody pretty much has, the commonplace, but they don't have a solution for the problem that I've outlined. They're actually one of the original creators of the solution that I've outlined. So their market differentiation often relies on gimmicky add-ons. They have Bluetooth speakers and bags and water bowls that you can add on, but it doesn't really change the functionality of the product itself. There is another leash called the Phyto leash that has a shock absorbing design and an auto braking feature, which actually worsens the problem because it gives a unpredictable environment when that dog takes off because it's automatically locking up. So it's not really solving the problem at hand. Then there's also the Tug leash, which is the best-selling product on Amazon. They have competitive pricing, but still has the same problem. All of these leashes suffer from the exact same problem that I'm setting out to fix. So my course of action is right now I'm in phase 1, product development. I'm working with a design company to finish the MVP. Then I want to move to the industrial design, product testing, and then the non-provisional patent of the final design. From there, move towards a marketing campaign. Some of these are going to overlap, but I just want to make sure that everything is secure in the IP sense and the physical product development sense. So move to the marketing campaign, product photography, videography, e-commerce website, and then third-party market research consultant. And then finally moving to market, funding the campaign to actually get the manufacturing set up, source the manufacturing, and then continue to scale production. So as far as the early stage funding that I'm looking at right now, my current schedule is I've contracted, as I said, the mechanical design team to develop the CAD model and the minimum viable product. The MVP completion is the next step, which I actually just got word of should be roughly end of December. And then I want to move towards the full industrial design. This is where we'll take into consideration human factors, ergonomics, and the full overall look of the leash itself. Right now, as far as product development costs, the MVP is currently covered. I've covered that myself through pitch competitions and also personal savings. The next big phase is the industrial design, and that's going to be a pivotal point that I can take to move forward so that I can have my patent filed and then also have the finished product. Then moving towards product testing, as I said, dogs can pull a lot of weight. So making sure that everything runs good through an alpha test and a beta test, get it into the hands of consumers and see what they like and what they don't like, and then run through a couple improvements there. And then, like I said, file for the non-provisional patent, roughly 12,000. So the remaining funding needed to have everything secured and everything ready to move towards a marketing campaign and a manufacturing campaign is roughly $67,000. So a little bit about myself. I'm a senior industrial engineering student here at WVU. My background is specifically in manufacturing. I worked with mine safety appliances in Pittsburgh, where I developed a value analysis and value engineering program, which actually led to a little over $6 million in cost avoidance for NPD projects over the next 4 years. So designing for manufacturability is in my blood. That's what I'm here for. That's my expertise. That's my forte. So that's what I'm trying to incorporate here when I'm working with the mechanical engineers down in Georgia. So I also outlined that I have roughly 2 years of experience working with MSA, and I'm actually still working with them now to help develop a industrial engineering plan for including automation. And then finally, this is Milo. This is the puppy that we got. And he's kind of the idea that started it all. He's the reason behind it. So that's pretty much everything that I have, and can open it up to questions and feedback.
Great, Anthony. Mike, you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. Very, very nice job. I think, Anthony, you followed the formula and recipe that was outlined earlier by Don and by Scott and Mara. So well done there. I think it was pretty clear that you probably hit home with, I would suspect, almost everybody who's on the webinar today who's had a dog, me included. I got an 80-pound American Bulldog who, when I've got her on my leash, and I've gone through multiple leashes, as soon as she sees that first squirrel or that deer, she yanks my arm off, which is not good for an old man like me. So I'll be the first guy on the block to buy one of your Easy Leashes when you come to market. I think you did a good job, really. Overall, you told the story like we suggested earlier, like the panelists prior to this presentation talked about. You laid out what your financial needs are. And I think the thing that hit home, I think, which is a very good idea, is to say that you've put your own money into it to create that MVP. So I think that was really smart, that investors want to see that you specifically are all in and you're willing to put not only all of your energy into it, but your own money. So very, very good job.
Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, I want to echo what Mike said on a really nice job with the pitch. Well organized, well presented. Your enthusiasm for it came through not just in the pitch, but in the fact that you've invested some of your own personal savings. For the just quick pieces of feedback that I would think about modifying on one of the slides is taking a look at the market opportunity slide, and where you address that's $21 billion market opportunity in the pet industry with 36% for pet supplies and then 250 million for the target market for leashes. Your addressable market, right, is it's not the $21 billion pet industry or the 36% for pet supplies. I think honing that in a little bit more specifically would be useful. On the if probably very difficult numbers to get, right, for the three competitors or potential competitors that you laid out, if there were any way to sort of drill in a little bit more on that, dollars sold by competitors, that could be useful, or even retail price for those items that would be your competitors. And I guess that sort of is the other piece of the money picture for it that would be useful to me, is what's the price of your existing competitors, or the ones that are out there, and it can be I'm sure it's all over the place, but branded, well respected ones. And what do you think are some ballparks for manufacturing cost and retail for what it is that you're thinking about? And that would be for me to stroke a $67,000 check, those would be two big things that I'd want to know. And then thinking through next phases for the company, you really, it's obvious that you are thinking through from an engineering perspective what you need to do, but thinking through from a business perspective, what other expertise might you want to add to the team, and might you need some advice or even mentoring on, even if you're not adding someone to the team? Is it somebody that is sort of the go-to-market person? Is there somebody that could help you develop an Amazon strategy as you're hitting sort of next phases, because that's probably one of the big retail outlets for what you're doing, and kind of what does that all look like? But great presentation. As Mike said, it immediately resonates with dog owners, even small dogs. I think that the 44 and up crowd with large dogs, yeah, that's great, but the small the small fluffy dogs that people are concerned about straining their necks, if they could have a nice little slow down before they jump to the end of the leash and get yanked back, you're going to have a lot of wealthy middle-aged people going, oh yeah, I don't want my dachshund wrenching his back, right? So I think that the totality of dog walkers and dog owners probably is your addressable market there, because everybody wants, like you said, if it's going to cost you $20 to get something that's going to protect your dog and protect your arm, I think you're going to have a market there. But cool, great idea.
Thank you guys. I appreciate the feedback.
Great. We'd like to thank everybody for the pitches. Again, this 5-minute kind of thing really constrains everybody, including the feedback providers. We've got a couple minutes here. Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot here. This was Guy Perduto's session. Would you maybe spend a minute or so and just talk about Guy and what he brought to the table for us before we wrap up here in a couple minutes?
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you, Bob. Gosh, this is really hard, because Guy was not only a colleague of mine, but one of my closest personal friends, and think about him just about every day since he passed. And as Michelle said earlier, this was his vision. He was the first person that I met when I got into this. And this is going back into, at least maybe 15 years ago. I think when he first joined Innova back in around 2006 or 7. And I was relatively new to the community here, and he and I put our heads together. And I remember meeting Guy and his father-in-law, the great Don Hoylman, at a pitch competition, just like this. I was sitting on either side of those two gentlemen here, and I was so excited about their excitement and the enthusiasm they had to do something really special here in West Virginia. And since then, of course, we've developed a lot of really great programs, but Guy was the leader here. Guy was the person who had the enthusiasm and the vision to do things. And he would never, ever give up on anything. He would always focus exclusively on what can we do to help the entrepreneur. And he was always kind about it. And many of us who do this for a living all the time, sometimes are not as kind and as respectful as we probably should be, but not Guy. Guy was always the person who was out there and showed them compassion and understanding, where some of us might say, well, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Guy would always find something positive in it. So when he passed, I think a lot of us had that soul searching kind of feeling that this was his vision, and this is something that those of us who do this for a living, and those of us who do this just because we have the passion for making things better here in West Virginia, really want to follow on with that legacy that Guy had provided for us. And I know I will, and miss him very, very much. The fact that that we are left behind now to continue with that vision really hits my heart very hard. And we're going to continue to try to make sure we provide that the guidance, the adult supervision, as I always say, the mentoring that Guy provided to a lot of these entrepreneurs, and ultimately the funding to pull all that together to meet the goals that he had set forward for all of us. So God bless you, brother, and we miss you. And like I said, we'll try to continue on with his legacy. Thank you for.
Thank you, Mike. My apologies for not warning you and putting you on the spot, but thank you. Well said. So appreciate everybody for attending the session, and we look forward to moving forward here. Rich, thank you as well. And back to Michelle or Joe, whoever's taking control back.
Well, we do have one quick question here.
Oh, okay, great.
That popped up a little earlier. I don't know if we can answer it or not, but I'll read it and you guys let me know if we need to unmute somebody, okay? From Eric, says, excellent work, and this is needed. Market outlook question. With companies like Quantum Scrape and others reporting developments on solid state batteries, how does that affect the long-term market outlook? And that was right up about 10 o'clock. So that,
I think it was aimed at Augie probably.
Yes. So what's unique about us is that unlike anytime there's an advancement, with the chemical makeup of the batteries, the recycling process that's used to retire batteries has to start from scratch. So that's why it's very inefficient, because the processes are started over rapid all the time, as the chemistries of the batteries are rapidly updated. We, on the other hand, are taking the batteries as they are in their existing form and utilizing them in second use applications. So with the advancement of better chemistries or solid state batteries, as you used in your example, whenever we get them, all that means is that we have a higher quality battery. So it's actually better for us the faster and the more advanced the batteries become.